Welcome to Business Middle East. This week we take a look at interest rates in the UK and the US. And in Business Snapshot we analyse what Egyptians are expecting from the new Suez Canal. Since the end of last year, America's Federal Reserve has repeated its intention to raise interest rates, but hasn't made it clear when it will do so. At the last Bank of England meeting, it seemed Governor Mark Carney was acting in the same way as Fed Chair Janet Yellen. In between official indications and economic data, interest rate forecasts have been fluctuating in the UK and US pending a decision. So, who is best placed to make the first move, the Bank of England or the Fed? Here's the story.
There's lots of talk about interest rates, but little certainty about when they'll be hiked in the US and UK. The Bank of England recently surprised some investors by sounding relaxed about keeping rates at a record low 0.5%. It's pointed to a possible rise early next year. The bank's governor, Mark Carney, has said they can't be more specific about exactly when it will happen, highlighting that it will depend on economic developments and data. It's the same stance as that of the Federal Reserve's Janet Yellen, who has also linked rate hikes with economic data. Inflation rates are still low. In the US, it stands at 0.2%, and in the UK, it's 0. After the latest US jobs report, economic analysts said the Fed might raise interest rates in September.
Let's get more on this. Joining me now is Noor Eldin Al-Hamouri, Chief Market Strategist at ADS Securities. The Bank of England is acting in a similar way to the Fed over interest rate hikes, and there's a lack of clarity about timing. Who do you think will take the first step? Who's best placed?
It's early to talk about raising rates for both banks. Last year, the Fed promised the world to raise rates during the next couple of meetings. At first, they said March, then they delayed it to June, and then September. Now this might be delayed from September to December, or maybe next year. In the UK, the Bank of England might be more transparent than the Fed, and we've seen that in the latest statements and minutes of meetings. In the meantime, the only missing part before raising rates is inflation, which remains lower and is likely to remain lower for some time due to the decline in oil prices. Therefore, the Bank of England is in better shape to raise rates before the Fed. However, the question remains over whether inflation will rise to let the banks raise interest rates.
We mentioned last week that sterling remains strong. Do you think that the market is starting to price sterling on the basis of an incoming rate hike? Is that the same scenario as the dollar?
Not yet. However, the British pound showed a notable stabilisation in the past 3 weeks. The pound against the US dollar traded within a range of 1.53 to 1.57. This stabilisation shows the strength of the pound, contrary to other currencies like the euro, which dropped against the US dollar again. In the meantime, and after the Bank of England's statement that the rate hike will be data dependent, the upcoming economic releases will have a notable and significant impact on the markets and the British pound much more than before, as positive figures would allow investors and traders to start pricing in a rate hike by the Bank of England, which might be the same as what happened to the US dollar this year.
Thank you, Noor, for this insight. Egypt's ambitious target of expanding the Suez Canal in 1 year was realised with the official opening last week. But there's a huge challenge ahead. Public and private sectors need to work hard on developing investment projects in the canal zone. In Business Snapshot, we take a look at some of the most important numbers in this project.
The $8 billion expansion of the Suez Canal is a flagship project for Egypt, but questions are being asked about whether economic promises will be fulfilled. The new channel was dug in just 1 year. 400 companies and 25,000 workers brought in to make it happen. They built a new 35-kilometre channel and widened and deepened 37 kilometres of the original one. Capacity has been expanded from 49 ships to 97 per day. Canal revenues are projected to double to $13.5 billion by 2023. Official estimates suggest the canal's own development project could create around 1 million new jobs. That job creation is dependent on attracting investors to build factories and logistics facilities in planned industrial zones around the canal. Millions of Egyptians are hoping the new investment will pay off. 20% of the country's population is below the poverty line.
That's all for now. You can share your thoughts and comments via Euronews social media using the hashtag #BusinessMiddleEast. Thanks for watching. See you next week.